Greetings everyone, Bandsaw Crown Music here. This week is a sound design tutorial, a pluck sound which might sound something like this in an arpeggiator. Okay, let's get straight into it. The first thing we need to do is initialize the synth so we have the default sound. In the oscillator section, increase the mix, which is the number of voices, and increase the pan to full. Also turn up the vibrato amount. Let's go over to the amp envelope for this sound. Because we want the sound to be shorter, let's change the sustain right down to 0 and leave the decay level just about as it is. If you're doing psytrance or something with a high BPM, maybe you could even take this down a little bit further, the decay. Let's increase the spike a little bit. This gives the impression of a bit of a sharper attack to the sound. Let's have a look at the filter section now for this oscillator. Let's turn the cutoff almost all the way down. Let's increase the resonance to give the sound a bit of a twang. And let's modulate the envelope somewhat by increasing the ENV button at the right hand side here. This gives the sound a bit of a movement. The next step is optional. I like to alter the V strength and the V speed often of my presets, and I think it sounds pretty good. It kind of subdues the sound in quite a nice way. But if you want a bit of a sharper sound, then you can omit this. The next step is to fix this preset to an ARP. So you can just choose any one you want, but I choose Epic Trance Bassline 5. I'm just going to transpose it up an octave here. Let's adjust the gate a little bit to make the sound a bit shorter, a bit more punchy. Just a finishing touch here, leave the reverb as it is. I like to increase the delay a little bit. The cool thing about Avenger is that you can add a second oscillator to the sound to give it a bit of an extra dimension. That's what we're going to do now. On the second oscillator, let's try putting a sample in there. In the Avenger sample section, search for EDM Hard Saw 2 and add that. Let's make some very minor alterations to the oscillator section. Just increase the voices a little bit here. Leave pretty much everything else the same. And let's tie the second oscillator to the same arpeggiator as oscillator 1. The second oscillator will be going to the same amp envelope as oscillator 1, so we can keep the same length of sound. So we can keep that as it is. But we can send it to a different filter. So let's add a filter in the filter section, especially for this oscillator. Okay, for this let's alter the cutoff all the way down. Let's again modulate the cutoff by adjusting the N button. Let's add a little bit of drive to it. And again, a little bit of resonance. Let's add the same delay and reverb that we have in oscillator 1. And now it sounds like this. Just a reminder, if we didn't have oscillator 2, this is what it sounded like. See, with oscillator 2 on, it does sound like a bit more of an interesting sound, a little bit sharper, a little bit more aggressive. Now you could experiment with oscillator 2, adding a different element to get a bit of a different sound. Let's try that. Let's add a wavetable. Let's search for Saw Sweep Band in the wavetable section. Okay, for this wavetable, let's alter the filter section a little bit. And let's enable the wavetable so it does scan through the waveform, mix the sound, modulate a bit, and make it more interesting. What else could you do to the sound? You could try increasing the noise on the oscillator. A lot of trance plucks sometimes have a bit of noise in there, so increase that a little bit. To make the sound a bit sharper, you could increase the spike. Or if you wanted more control over the noise, you could put it on a third oscillator and then take down the low pass of the oscillator so you just have the noise. And create a second amp envelope so you could have even more control over that noise if you wanted to. And again, we could tie this to the ARP like the other oscillators. And finally, let's add some drums to it. I'm using the Trance 2 drum kit built into Avenger. Okay, I think we'll end it there for this tutorial. If you found it helpful, please click on the like button. If you want to be informed of more tutorials in the future, click on subscribe. Cheers.